Artificial intelligence is reinventing business as we speak. You can either get up to speed or get left behind. The choice is yours, and really, it's a no-brainer. Join Cognitive Path founders Geoff Livingston and Greg Verdino as they chat with AI experts about the latest ideas, trends, and technologies that are creating the future of business today. This is No Brainer.
Hi, this is Greg Verdino. Welcome to another episode of No Brainer. I am here, as always, with my good friend, my partner, my compatriot, my evil twin. And yes, I do mean evil twin, Geoff Livingston. How's it going today, Geoff?
Good. How's my bald brother of another mother?
Doing all right. It's cold in New York today.
Yeah.
Spring-like, I would have imagined.
But it was spring like last week here in DC, and now it's cold here too.
We
I'm even wearing like a wool sweater.
Well, we got the April showers last week, and now today we've got the winter weather back. I don't know. I guess you can't complain too much. You can.
Nobody will listen though.
Nobody will listen. Everyone will fast forwarding through the complaints.
When you guys start talking?
Here's something, though, we hope you don't fast forward through, which is our usual bevy of asks and wants. If you are listening, please be sure to hit that like button, to rate the podcast on whatever pod service you use. That does help us get exposure and get out there and hopefully gain audience as we grow. If you are watching us on YouTube, of course, again, please be sure to follow the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the episode, rate the episode, leave your comments, do all that kind of good stuff. And be sure to share anything you like on social media so all of your friends and loved ones can learn all about AI. And today we're going to be learning about AI with another special guest. Geoff, do you want to introduce who we have with us today?
Sure. So those of you that are in Greater Washington area probably already know our guest. Her name is Lindsey Mastis. She is an independent journalist. She is also an icon, or has been an icon for the past couple of decades on TV, a little less than that, I believe. And she's a keynote speaker, a media consultant, and now she's out on her own. She's got her own YouTube channel, the whole 9 yards. But most importantly, and for the relevance of this show, she was the first TV reporter and anchor covering AI. And here she is with us today to talk about AI, given her experiences and now her recently freed mind and her ability to do more of what she wants. Lindsey, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me. Delighted to be here. Great day. Excited to talk AI in tech for sure. And great to be here with you, Geoff and Greg.
Well, thank you for coming along. It was very kind of you. We know you're busy. I know you go to a lot of shows and you're actually more the one talking to people, getting their perspective. So we decided to flip the tables on you.
Yes, I'm used to being the one asking the questions, so it'll be weird to be the one answering the questions.
So when you think about AI and kind of like your role as that kind of person that brings people that information, the data, and explains it to them, what do you see your role in interfacing with the public?
I've always seen my role as the person who informs. And right now, I'm really focused on the positives of AI in tech. I think that we have had a lot of Hollywood movies, we have a lot of doom and gloom, but I really believe that artificial intelligence is a tool and it can be used for good, it could be used for bad. And if I can inspire more people to see how it's being used for good, it will hopefully inspire them to use it for good as well. And if we have more people using it for good than evil, we have good outweighing evil, then I see that it can really help out humanity. I have been in so many rooms with people in this community that really want to solve problems and make life better for people. So I'm just very encouraged by that narrative. And I'm encouraged because I have seen so many people with the best of intentions. So again, that's my role right now. People are afraid of artificial intelligence. They're afraid to use it. I want to show them how it's being used in positive ways.
Very interesting. Yeah, I saw a Pew report the other day on AI experts. I will toot my own horn. Of course, Greg's like, oh God, here he goes again. But I was one of the experts interviewed. Oh my God, one of the 2000 or whatever. But long story short, all jokes aside, there's like 25, 30 point gap between how AI experts see AI being impactful positively versus the general public. So there's a huge gap there. And I suspect, based on my own conversations, a lot of people may have had like one try or two tries at the ChatGPT wheel and didn't necessarily get what they wanted, or some haven't even tried it at all. What do you think the gap is between those of us that live and breathe this and real people?
I've always been one of the for early adopters of different technologies, of social media, that type of thing. So I've kind of seen these trends throughout time where when there's something new and it's different, it's a little bit hard maybe to understand the value of it. And then there's also some fear associated with it. I notice it's more reluctance. So I think sometimes people are saying, oh, I'm afraid of this, but I think it's more reluctance. And I do think that there is a gap between those of us who are always ready to jump on something new. Most people don't have that time in their day. I cover artificial intelligence and technology, so I carve out time in my day every day to focus on AI, to see how these new technologies are working, to actually be able to be the person to talk with someone who started a company or who created the code or who is operating the robot. I get to interact with them on a one-on-one basis. Most people aren't getting that exposure or that opportunity. And so I think that it makes it a little bit harder for them to picture themselves in this new world because they're not faced with it every day or they don't have time at all to learn some of these skills. So yeah, I think there's like a personality trait that I have that makes me attracted to this new technology. But I do think eventually people are going to be embracing at least some of the tools that will make their lives better or easier. And so many people are using AI and they don't even know it, right? We've been using search engines for a long time, not realizing that that's an AI algorithm, things like that. So we might find that we're using it without realizing exactly that that's AI technology.
Yeah, even Instagram or any of the social networks, right? All AI.
Or Spotify and Netflix and Amazon, right? It's, I think, a little bit different for people when it's running in the background and you're not thinking about it. Nobody's thinking, oh, my Google Maps is running a machine learning algorithm to reroute me, or whatever. But when you actually have a conversation with it, it feels like a very different thing. It's much more active and proactive than just letting it run in the background. You can be blissfully unaware. Like, you don't need to know how the plane flies. You just have to trust the plane flies. In this case, you kind of have to know how to work with it, right? What do you think, as somebody who comes from the media space, what do you think the media could or should do? What are people like you actually doing to help, the average consumer get over that hump?
Right. So that is a hard one. And I've noticed every newsroom is different, every publication is different across the country, and the focus might be different. So I see a lot of feature stories on artificial intelligence, and that really excites me. Everything from an AI-infused robot washing windows to maybe just having a program help you with customer service. So I'm seeing some of those stories. I was the one doing a lot of those stories for local news. Now I do them on a YouTube platform and I contribute elsewhere as well, where I talk a little bit about it. But it is not across the board, right? Every journalist is going to come at it from a different angle. And I think we're going to see a little bit of an evolution with the coverage of artificial intelligence and technology. And there will come a time where we don't even talk about it. It's just going to be another thing. But I'm encouraged when I see news media do stories on AI to try to explain how it works. The hard part is education and making sure that people have access to some of these upskilling tools and programs. So one of the things that I was doing was, and still do, is I always try to find ways to give people an avenue to learn those skills. So if there is a story that I'm doing on how to upskill, I might put a list together of all kinds of programs, from college degrees to free programs to maybe ones that only cost a nominal fee or something that you would be able to afford so that you could invest in yourself to learn some of those tools. But we're talking about AI in general, and one of the big misconceptions when people are trying to dive in is realizing that AI goes down so many different paths that you're not going to learn everything. Even in the community, I'll talk to people who focus on AI governance, but they can't program a robot. Those are two totally different things. When you find out what you're interested in, I always tell people, when you find out what it is you're really interested in, what you're gravitating toward, that's when you maybe take a course, learn more of that. But I don't see a ton of those stories being done. Like, the resources are out there, but having the education about how to educate yourself, that takes some time as well. Some of the courses I think of that I would love to take, I would already need to know programming to a certain level in order for those courses to be relevant to me. So it might be free, but it may not be a good fit.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure. Given your change from obviously network TV to your current environment, do you find you're more able to provide those kinds of resources? Is it easier for you to do that now? Do you feel more empowered?
It was easy then as well. I mean, I've been covering technology for a very long time. I got the AI and tech beat over the last couple of years, but 15 years ago, I was doing stories on augmented reality, and it was harder.
Second Life? Were you a Second Life person?
I wanted to be a Second Life person. I reported on Second Life. I was trying to work on stories about how it was being used for diplomacy at the time. Ran up against
the State Department had its big Second Life initiative.
Yeah, just some really incredible things. But it was a little bit harder back then. But then, it wasn't talked about the way it is now. So it made more sense now to do it on like a daily basis. But I think that what's really difficult is trying to connect with the people that want to hear what it is I have to offer in terms of AI and news and all of that. So that's what I'm trying to do right now, is like reach that audience, because it's going to come in waves. Right now we have people who are interested and wanting to dive into it, but we have a lot of people who are still reluctant. And as people come around, they're going to want to find these resources. And in journalism and doing these news stories, we do a story and we're like, well, we already did that story. But in a month, there might be new people who want to hear that story. So trying to do updated stories all the time that's something to think about as well. But journalists can't do the same story every month. That's why I encourage people to start looking at workshops. And that's something that I decided I wanted to start offering. I was starting to do that anyway, because then we're in an environment where it's like, these are tools that I've come across, or even companies I've talked to. Like, getting to talk to the people behind the technology is so valuable. I'm able to shed a little bit more light on why things are the way they are and where to get started. It's not just like, hey, I don't tell people, hey, do this, but here's where to start when you're interested.
Very cool. Very cool. So are you going to be on the Generate tour?
Oh, I was part of the inaugural Generate event, which was so neat. And for people who aren't aware of what it is, this is a new event, a series of events put on by Modav. They've done the Voice and AI conference and the Gov and AI conference, which I've covered in years past. I've also been a panelist in years past. So at the Generate event, these are smaller and they're city specific. So I was able to do a fireside chat, talk about AI, talk a little bit about how I integrate it in my life, not just covering it, but what tools I'm using. And
also your aspiring music career.
Right. And it's so interesting because I'm afraid to talk about AI and music because people have assumptions about what that means.
And I know how you feel.
Yeah.
Especially with LinkedIn. I feel that community is very single track, and they can only understand that you do one thing. So are you a musician? Are you a professional musician? Or are you a reporter? Or are you a journalist?
Oh, you have to be like one thing. But also when it comes to like AI in my music, I don't use artificial intelligence to write music. I love writing music. I've written more than 250 songs. I have a performance persona that I focus in on. But
you dress like Bootsy Collins.
I'm Greek, so I just Greek it up. But what I do is I'm actually using my own skills in music to score the music for my AI pieces.
Oh, cool.
So I'm not using AI to create the music at all. What I'm doing is just taking a skill set that I already have to then pop it over to my AI side just to make my stories better. Because in news for 20 years, I wasn't really able to add music. We would have sound banks, but sometimes the music doesn't match up. Normally, you don't hear any scoring going on in the background of a news story unless it's a very specific type of piece. In the YouTube world, it makes more sense to have music running underneath of it. And not every video. Like I'll have some videos coming up where it's mostly me talking to the camera and just trying out some tools. It didn't make sense for me to put music there. But the fact that I can finally use a skill set that I have and merge my two worlds together a little bit, to me, is very gratifying.
Mhm. I think maybe like one question I have for you is, what's your general opinion of where AI is at for the public right now?
I think it's an exciting time, to be honest. I feel like it's a really exciting time. There's a lot of fear and reluctance, as I mentioned, but overall, getting a chance to witness this type of technology come to fruition is really special. If we think back to when we were in elementary school, and we've got those history textbooks that are not very detailed because you're trying to explain something to a second grader, but you learn about things like the Industrial Revolution. You learn about things like the invention of cars, and you think, wow, how cool was that? That one day you were in a stagecoach and the next day you were in an automobile. We're getting this incredible opportunity as humans to say what our lives were like before AI, what our lives are starting to become. And then we can take this experience and have more empathy for what people went through in the past when this technology came about for them. Again, they likely felt a lot of fear. They likely felt in the Industrial Revolution, oh my, these are going to replace our jobs, that type of thing. So yeah, a lot more empathy for history.
Yeah, interesting. And so what do you think you talk to a lot of people, you interview a lot of people, I'm sure you're following a lot of stories. And what do you think some of the most interesting, I would say, maybe even exciting, encouraging things that you see that you feel like the average consumer should be paying attention to beyond just the basic, hey, ChatGPT is here kind of stuff?
Oh, when I really think about what is going to impact people the soonest and probably the most significantly in the short term, I'm going to go with customer service. Because this is something that I am encountering myself right now, and there's a lot of frustration when it comes to automated customer service. I have now been talking with people that are part of companies that are working to make customer service experiences a lot better by using AI. Everything from a chatbot to being able to handle your problems to having AI assist a human customer service representative. And so when, this is something that we don't like to think about. We don't think about customer service until we need to stand in line or try to stay on hold for 10 minutes. I'm having experiences where the customer service interaction is really good. I'm having experiences where the chatbot has been able to help me out sometimes. It's, again, the other day, it was one where it was like human, 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 or even on the phone, human, human, human. But I'm seeing it happen more often where I'm not needing to ask for the human. And we have a limited amount of customer service agents for some of these really big companies, unfortunately.
Right.
But the harder cases, the more complicated cases need to go to humans right now. And the quick, hey, what is my balance on this? Or I can return something now without ever speaking to a human. I've been able to do that for quite a while by just clicking a few buttons in my Amazon or on Macy's or Nordstrom's or whatever. You don't have to talk to a person. Taking it back. I washed
Get the
in a
skeptical
shrink
eye.
or something. Yeah, something kind of weird. But yeah, nowadays it's a little bit better. And there's a woman I did a story on. We've since become friends. She's a company that has AI assistants in the background helping the humans with customer service. So as that human to human help, they then have an AI that's kind of like listening in and is able to say like, hey, try this, or what about this, or reminding them of certain policies so it's at their fingertips.
Mhm.
And the idea is that your interaction with that customer service agent is going to be a lot less, so you get it resolved sooner. And all we have to do is watch SNL and trying to cancel your cable, some of those SNL skits, to understand why it's so important to just be able to get what you need done and move on with your life.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like customer service is such sort of a base case, right? In that it's something that affects everybody and is usually a negative experience for everybody involved. I don't think it's any secret that the people who work in customer service often find themselves subjected to not fantastic conditions. They're working weird hours, everyone's screaming, they're underpaid. It's not a great career.
But there's incredible people that work in customer.
Right, they're great people.
I'm one of those people where I've become friends with some of the customer service agents that I've talked to on the phone. I'm friends with the woman who sold me like concert tickets in Vegas. Like we're Instagram friends. I shared a cookie recipe with one of the cable service representatives.
People
People are pretty amazing. But yeah, it's
nature of the work.
Right. Like it's often in a poor neighborhood too.
Right.
What General Dynamics was running Obamacare call centers, they had them all in like Utah in the middle of nowhere. Right.
And then you've got the consumer who often, to your point, is not necessarily getting the satisfaction they want, which is not the person's fault. But so what you're describing,
they act like they're on the beltway.
Right.
Except for Lindsey.
The case you're describing there, you've got sort of this win-win situation, right? AI is being deployed to benefit the call center rep, right? A whisper agent on their shoulder, helping them to essentially access all the company's institutional knowledge, their knowledge base about policies and returns this and what's in inventory or whatever, right? To make that person more effective, make their job easier, make them deliver a better experience to the customer, which in turn you end up with a happy customer who's getting the kind of service and support they might expect, whether they're entitled to it or not, right? So it's a win-win scenario like that. Positive examples are getting through to the average consumer who is probably going to work on a Monday and their boss is telling them, try out this co-pilot thing and giving them no training. And they kind of stumble and bumble around it. It doesn't actually do what they were told to do. They wanted to do, they get disappointed, disillusioned with it. Then they kind of go home and they open up the newspaper and it's some godfather of AI talking about how AI is going to eradicate humankind when it escapes from the lab, like it's the Terminator.
I'm reading Prey right now by Michael.
I think it is important for the people who have a platform, whether it's a traditional media platform or more of now as you've moved into an independent role, more of a creator style platform, to get those kinds of stories out there. And I think sometimes and I'm kind of pointing mostly at Geoff, I don't know where he is on the screen for the viewer, but I think because we're eyeballs deep in this stuff, might roll our eyes and go, that's old news. That's the boring stuff. What's the cool next new thing happening with AI? And forget that the consumer is still trying to make sense of this stuff and understand how does this actually create value in the real world.
Right. It's going to be one of those aha moments where they're like, I always think of like the Staples "that was easy" button. You're going to have those moments where you're like, oh, I was expecting it to be this long, drawn out process. That was easy. Wow, easier than I expected. I think we're going to have those little moments where we're like, AI actually made this easier for me. Huh. And I think other companies, when they see the customer satisfaction when things work, right? If you're using AI to help your human customer service agents have better experiences with customers, so those customers are happier, your customer service agents aren't being abused by angry customers, that's going to go a long way. And I do find that I have buying power. I tend to gravitate more toward companies that have that better customer service interaction.
Sure.
Because if there is an issue, I rather know it's going to be handled versus going with another company that, okay, yeah, the product looks great, but if there's an issue, what do I then have to go through?
Right.
So one thing that comes to mind too when we're talking about this consumer adoption cycle is that ChatGPT in particular and OpenAI have had a recent boom of subscribers. I think our friend Paul at Macon's most recent newsletter highlighted all the revenue gains that they're making. I think it's something to the tune of $1 billion or $500 million a quarter now with just ChatGPT subscriptions, which is impressive at $20 a pop, right? I mean, it's starting to add up now. So why is ChatGPT dominated public opinion compared to the other chatbots? particularly considering like usually experts, it gets to be a pretty healthy debate about which one's better. And we all seem to have a preference. And usually it's not ChatGPT. It's usually like Claude or Perplexity or, Llama or Gemini or whatever. So what are your thoughts on that since you got the finger on the pulse?
I see things from a news perspective. So in news, you want to be first, right? So if you're the first on air with a story, you have to be right. You have to be correct. You have to be first and right. You can't
Then
be
you
first
get
and wrong.
aggregated, right?
You're right. Then you aggregate it. And people, when there's breaking news happening, people tend to flip on their televisions and they stick with the station generally that had it first because they're getting that newest information sooner. And then also online, there's a longer tail of audiences coming to them. So when it comes to ChatGPT, it's really being first to market and doing it in a way that people know about. I could be the first news reporter at a scene where there's breaking news. I could even be broadcasting from that scene first. But if I am not going down a pipeline where people know I'm there and broadcasting, then I'm not technically first. Like I might have been there, but nobody knew it. So it's also making sure like that, hey, they're first. So ChatGPT was able to be first to market in a really big way that had everyone saying, what is this? What do I need to know about? I mean, we have heard about some of these tools for years, and yet they just kind of came and went. Right? In this particular case, it was like timing. It was the right tool at the right time with the right channel.
Another trend that we're starting to see is like Google search is deteriorating, which seems almost impossible. They're so monolithic, right? It's almost, well, it's not like Blockbuster when they got killed by Netflix because that happened almost overnight. And that was just a technology change. This is a little more subtle in some ways, but we are starting to see that search audience move away and it's going to AI answer engines. Why do you think that's happening?
I always think back to Ask Jeeves. Do you guys remember?
Yeah.
Jeeves? I loved Ask Jeeves so
Better than
much.
Automation.
It worked some of the time, but it didn't work the way that we're seeing AI work today.
Right. No bad straight answer.
I can tell you, like, even though I use ChatGPT for search quite a bit, I've dabbled in a lot of the AIs. I, again, have just used mostly ChatGPT myself because I report quite a bit on it. But I'm still using Google, and I'm starting to see Google use a lot of these AI tools as well. So it'll probably ebb and flow a little bit. Google's a very smart company, and they have a lot of research and some very smart minds. So next week, we could be talking about a whole other AI system that's dominating. The week after, they might come back and start dominating again. I think it's too early to really tell. And yeah, if our search engines change, some, like you're bringing up Blockbuster and Netflix and all of this, if a company can pivot and change with the times, it's more likely to survive. I loved Kodak. I loved film.
Yeah.
My first jobs were in black and white dark rooms. These are companies that could
Impossible.
But these are companies that could have changed a little bit with the times, could have really focused in on digital technology.
Yeah.
And we didn't see that. But I think that Google's always been pretty tech forward. So I'm hesitant to make a prediction, but I think we're too early to say one's going to dominate over another long term.
So I would say that Google has at least attempted to keep up and not simply maintain the old way. We'll see if it works out, but go ahead, Craig.
I mean, I think Google's doing a lot of things that they're probably not getting credit for right now. And that maybe goes to what we were talking about before with OpenAI kind of being the first mover and dominating the narrative. Because, when I use Gemini, like the stuff that's apples to apples with what I would use ChatGPT for, ChatGPT wins. Claude would probably win as well for content generation or whatever. Even general, like brainstormy kind of stuff, having a conversation with the chatbot and kind of just throwing ideas back and forth and asking questions or whatever. Kind of on the sly, it seems, Google's rolling out lots of free stuff like deep research and Notebook LM and stuff like that. That's really freaking good, but nobody knows about. And you almost have to hunt to find it. which is weird because if you've got a Gmail account or at least a workspace account, as many businesses do, you get that stuff for free.
Right.
The other thing is they are obviously integrating generative search results, the generative answers into the engine, whether they're good or bad or not, to your point. Sometimes Ask Jeeves was right, sometimes Ask Jeeves was wrong, sometimes Google
I've seen
right, but mostly
40%,
they're
40% benchmarks on accuracy.
yeah, it's well, more often than not, they're wrong. And of course, that will get better theoretically over time. So they're experimenting. I think there's also, as you said before, there's a lot of aspects to AI in terms of just even understanding where is your sweet spot as a human being. Am I into the ethics, the governance, the use cases, the technology itself? There's also hundreds and hundreds of different AI technologies, right? A chat GPT, LLM-based system is very different from computer vision, right? That might be used on a dock, or whatever. I know, or my understanding is from articles and stuff, I mean, Google's innovating in a bunch of different places, like with healthcare and education. There's almost this weird assumption because the narrative is so focused on generative AI and the race to build the biggest and best large language model, that the assumption almost seems to be that everyone has to be in that particular AI race. But what's weird is I think over time, these LLMs are going to be commoditized, right? We saw even that with DeepThink or whatever, DeepSeek or whatever it was called out of China, right? When that was open source, free to run. And it was like, holy crap, now what's OpenAI going to do, right? So who knows? Anyway, I'm just kind of going in a bunch of different directions with this. But where I want to go is, Jeff's like, God, that's what happens when nobody lets me talk. Kind of with your kind of the dual hat of AI enthusiast and professional journalist, one of the things that I know I've seen some studies on, and it would appear to be evident, is as AI serves you more and more answers, whether it's in ChatGPT or in Google search results, there seems to be a risk that people lose some of their ability to think critically about the information that's being served to them.
Oh yeah. I mean, our brain we have to use it or lose it, right?
Right.
And we have to keep our muscles going. I can tell you that whenever I have to now spell a word out, I get halfway and I'm like, I might be writing the word out. I'm halfway and I'm like, wait a minute, isn't it supposed to tell me how to, because of texting, I write about half the word and then it suggests what the word is. And it's so much simpler to just be like, there it is instead of typing it out. So now as I'm writing, I'm like, wait a minute, how do I spell the rest of this word? I haven't had to write this word out in a really long time. Or GPS. I used to be able to go everywhere. I've lived in so many different parts of the country. When I was in college, I went down and lived in Texas for a couple of months in the Dallas area. And I had a map that I had to pull over and study to figure out where I was going. I could get everywhere. I knew that city like the back of my hand within 2 weeks. It was very easy for me to get around. But now I'm kind of like, which way's the grocery store from here? I don't have my GPS plugged in. I can't remember. Do I make a left or do I make a right? And so, yeah, if we let it do everything for us, then we may at least temporarily lose that skill set. And I am starting to see more and more TikToks and Reels and Shorts on parents with teenagers, and the teenagers are having to do these tasks where they call people up, like a doctor's appointment, make their own doctor's appointment, or just get on the phone with customer service. They're so used to texting and doing everything that way that it's really difficult for them. It gives them a lot of anxiety. So that is a skill set that parents are trying to help their kids have. With back in the day, if we wanted to hang out with our friends, we had to call their house and talk to their parents. Can Jimmy come to the phone? Well,
Right.
he can, or why? You might get the third degree from your friend's parents. Nowadays, you just look to see where your kid is on GPS, and that communication is a little bit different. Every family's different, of course, but it's just interesting how things have changed. But then again, I don't know how at this moment, but I have known in the past how to change the tape in a typewriter. right? But do I really need to hold on to that skill? Like maybe there are some of these skills that we're going to be able to let go so that there are other skills that we can then develop.
So I want to pivot a little bit because we're running towards the end here, and I want to make sure we cover some of your topics, like how you, and we've already talked about your musical inclinations, are now looking at how AI is impacting music. Tell us about your mini documentary you're working on.
Yeah, I'm kind of calling it that because it's going to be longer. I don't know if it'll really be a mini doc or if it's just going to be a normal type of like YouTube video, but I do expect it to be on the longer side.
Coming.
My what?
Conference.
Yeah, so I went to a very large music conference, the largest in the nation, that's really geared toward music merchants, but there's so many musicians that come to it as well. It's called NAMM. And I was able to go this year and ask people questions about whether AI is ruining music. And so I've got all kinds of perspectives and ideas. And it was interesting to me because a few weeks before that, I was at CES. And the marketing around artificial intelligence at CES was out of this world. Like signs everywhere, companies incorporating it into their brands. It was just highlighted in almost everywhere I went. There was like, oh, this is how we're using AI. I get to NAMM and I'm like, where's the AI marketing? I don't see any. I can't find it. There was some there, but it was really difficult to find. And I started to realize that a lot of musicians just are not happy with AI infiltrating their profession. And they have some really great reasons. There's a concern that it is going to take the parts of their job that they love, the composing of music, the writing of music, the performing of music even. It could come into play as well. So it's already difficult for musicians to make a living for a lot of reasons, but there's a lot of concerns. So what I do is I have discussions about the concerns, but also the opportunities. Because there are some arenas where companies are saying this is going to help the musicians out. And I was able to talk to some big names while I was there as well and get their take on AI. And I'm just interested in putting all this together. So I'm working on that project right now. Earliest it might launch is the end of the month, but it's probably going to be closer like May, maybe early May, that it will be ready to go.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing that one. And please do let us know when it drops so we can share it out. And then I guess one of the beats you're looking at too, which is more futuristic, is humanoid robots. Is that correct?
I love humanoid robots, and I love it for a few different reasons. I really believe that humanoid robots are our ability to understand the technology a little bit better because a lot of us are empathetic. Some of us just have to picture ourselves and how AI would work with us. So getting to see a humanoid robot at work, I think helps us better understand the technology. Even though in some cases and in a lot of cases, something that looks nothing like a humanoid robot, maybe just an arm, might be able to do the job a little bit better or faster or more efficiently. It's harder to relate to something that looks just like a piece of machinery versus something that kind of resembles us, kind of moves like us.
Did you see Fetch?
No, I haven't yet.
Oh my God, you haven't seen Fetch? My Lord.
Not in the RL, not in the real life.
It's that Tom Hanks movie.
I don't.
With the robot. Oh, you're gonna.
Okay, I have I have like an ongoing list of movies that I'm supposed to watch and TV shows that I'm supposed to watch, and that list is so incredibly long right now. But basically, I got to add that to my list as well.
Sorry.
But that's okay
Because it's positive. It's a good robot.
Nice. But basically, when I talk to people about why does this robot look like a human, we live in a world that's designed for humans. So in order for machines to then get in there and kind of do some of these roles or do some of the harder work, they have to fit into these spaces. So that's why we're seeing a lot of humanoid robots right now. But could you imagine one day if your kitchen wasn't really a kitchen? What if it was just a big piece of machinery with a bunch of robotics so that maybe when you're done eating, you just put your dishes up there and they're done for you. Maybe you don't have to do the dishes anymore. Some people love to cook. So it'd be really great to have maybe a robot that helps you prep, maybe do the parts that you're like, oh, I love to cook, but I really hate chopping onions because they make me cry,
Or how
you can do
wash your hands afterwards. Oh my God.
Yes, exactly. So there might be some opportunities like that. I think back to, was it college or was it high school? Literally, I can't remember anymore. We used to have this conveyor belt, and you would put your tray on the conveyor belt after lunch, and it went off into this room that you couldn't see. And as a kid, you don't think, oh, there's people back there having to wash all of my
Yeah.
dishes. I just put it back there and I think it's magic. It's washing the trays and the dishes, and tomorrow I'll get a new tray and some clean dishes. Didn't occur to me that a human was doing all of that. And that could have been time better spent on, especially in high school, having that human out and about to make sure we were all behaving ourselves. Like we did not have enough supervision, I don't think, during lunchtime. So that would have been a better use of our human time versus like washing the dish. I was a pretty good kid, but yeah, there was stuff.
Sure. The last is the Ask the TV journalist series, right? We're actually going to help PR people out learn how to pitch.
Yeah, so I'm available to share my expertise. I have 20 years in television news, and I want to spill the tea, as they say, a little bit, because I think it can help. It's one of those like, help me, help you, help me kind of things. There are just some really simple things sometimes that I've noticed that if a little tweak was made here or there, it would make a world of difference. And in so many cases, the difference between someone's story getting on air versus not getting on air, including the one thing you can do with your email subject line that would literally could be the difference between a journalist even seeing your pitch. So I go through all of these tips. I open it up for Q&A as well. I just did a trial run this week that went really well. It was really great to see what people knew already, what they didn't know, and what I can share to help. Because really what it comes down to is journalists want to put really incredible stories on the air.
Right.
And we want to do stories that make an impact and help the most people that we can possibly help. Our viewing audience is usually widespread. It's not just one or two people in a very specific niche. It's usually very widespread. So getting a chance to share these stories can make a big impact. But sometimes the pitches come through and we're not able to see that opportunity because it's not spelled out in a certain way or it doesn't include certain information. And then it's a missed opportunity. And it's a missed opportunity for the PR agent. It's a missed opportunity for the journalist. But more importantly, it is a missed opportunity for the audience to gain some valuable information. So I want to be able to give people some help in that arena. So yeah, I can talk to teams, I can do one-on-ones. So that's something I have on my website, lindseymastis.com, if I can plug it right there, that you can go and book some time with me.
And that's how to find Lindsey. And on LinkedIn too, I assume?
I'm on LinkedIn as well. And it's important to note that I have kind of a different, it's not a crazy spelling of Lindsey, but it's Lindsey with an EY. So it.
Yeah, I mistyped that once. I had to go back and get it. And Mastis is Mastis. And you are also on YouTube to watch the actual reports.
Yes, absolutely.
And we'll put all those links for all the correct spellings. And Geoff knows weird spellings for sure. We know that's true. Geoff spelled the wrong way.
Stupid way, right? Saturday Night Live.
Although I'm Greg spelled the wrong way since I'm a Gregory, and almost everybody puts 2 G's at the end. We will make sure all those links with all the proper spellings are in the show notes as well for anybody who didn't catch it. Hopefully folks will connect with you. It sounds like you're doing a lot of really fantastic work. And I love the thread that runs through all of it, which is this idea of helping people see the positive upside and have a hopeful vision for the impact AI is having in all of our lives.
Thank you for the work.
And
thank you.
And
Thank you so much for having me on today as well.
And thanks for being with us. It certainly beats Geoff and I just talking to each other for 45 minutes. So thank you. We are ready to wrap it up. So let's go ahead and do that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you got good value out of this conversation. If you need to get in touch with us, you can email us through the nobrainerpodcast.com website. We love to hear from you. If you have ideas for future shows, future guests, questions, comments, critiques, safe for work photographs even. We are happy to receive them. And, we, of course, do look forward to that and will respond when appropriate with safe for work responses. We are also, again, as we said at the outset of the show, if you are a listener and enjoy what you're hearing, or a viewer and enjoy what you're seeing, please be sure to do all the right things on all the right sites. Be sure to share on social, let your friends, coworkers, colleagues, and even some of those people you don't like so much know about the show and encourage them to listen. And with that, we are out of here for another couple of weeks. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you on the next episode of No Brainer.